I want to apologize for being a little late now. Our council session is still going on, and I will be called for a vote, so we'll suspend the meeting for a moment in about 20 minutes, but I didn't want to keep you waiting right here. Mr. Clerk, give us the items that are before us.
Okay, item number 1 is a categorical exemption in Board of Harbor Commissioners report relative to the proposed successor permit number 870 with Southern California Gas Company for the operation and maintenance of an existing subsurface pipeline right-of-way for delivery of natural gas to the surrounding community.
Great. Aaron?
Good afternoon, Councilmember. This is a
State your name and position.
Oh, sorry, Aaron Gross with the Port of Los Angeles. This is a successor permit for subsurface land lease of 20 years for Southern California Gas for 2 pipelines down at the Port of Los Angeles to bring natural gas from the port to the local surrounding community. Compensation's been set at $3,452 annually, which is based on a 10% annual rate of return. Based on $22 per square foot at the port and discounted by 50% because the pipelines are underground.
Your board approve it?
Yes.
Okay, recommend approval. Mr. Clerk, the next items, thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman.
The next items?
And sorry, that was approved, correct?
Approved. And I just want to ask the Sergeant one question before he... Sergeant, if you could just let me know when they're down to 2 more speakers on the queue, and then I'm going to go down, and we'll suspend that. But I did want to keep the people from Ontario who's come all the way into Los Angeles here, and I think of Ron Loveridge. Is Ron going to come in today? Well, those of you who know Ron, tell him I came up because I didn't want to keep him waiting. All right, so that's good. Let me ask the CEO to come forth right now. And all these items pretty much cover the issue. And we want to get this hearing down to know what the city's position is, that of the city administrative officer, and that of our executive director of Los Angeles International Airports. Mr. Santana.
Good afternoon. Our report is in response to a directive given to us by your council to consider a specific proposal that was submitted to us by the City of Ontario, and also to look at a number of different options that your council can consider as a path forward. As part of this report, we consulted with Acacia Financial Group, who conducted an extensive analysis on the specific proposal Ontario submitted and outlined for us what other options your council considered in the future. To summarize what the proposal was, and certainly the Chris Hughes, who's here representing the City of Ontario, could discuss it further. The specific proposal that was outlined on December 14th was as follows. They presented a proposal that would require the paying to the City of Los Angeles General Fund a $50 million transaction payment unrelated to the airport's valuation to defray the cost of transferring the airport back to Ontario. They proposed assuming or retiring approximately $71 million in existing bond debt and any other LA Ontario related financial obligations, including indemnification of any and all liability pertaining to those obligations. They asked that they would pay LAWA in years when the cost per in-plane passenger, or CPE, to airlines operating in Ontario is $5 or less, up to 1/3 of annual Ontario PFC collections, up to the cumulative amount equal to the amount of LAX PFC collections contributed to capital projects at LA Ontario. And this is estimated about $125 million. They asked that they would enter into an employee protection and transaction services agreement to protect existing LAWA employees, including their pension and retirement benefits and obligations for a minimum period. They would refrain from imposing any operating restrictions, caps, curfews, aircraft type bans, and any other barriers to future growth at the airport. And finally, maintain all current operating covenants for the airport, as well as terminating or revising the original 1967 JPA. My office with Acacia reviewed the proposal, and at this time is recommending that this city respectfully decline the proposal submitted by the City of Ontario. Our primary concern is centered around the $50 million transaction payment. I had an opportunity, along with the director of LAWA, to visit with the FAA, and in those conversations, they share their concern about a potential diversion of aviation dollars away from LAWA and into the general fund as a result of this transaction. Since that meeting, the city attorney has also had an opportunity to review that element of the proposal and has recommended that, in fact, it could be a potential diversion of funds, and there has been a subsequent confidential document report submitted to your committee on that issue. However, while we do recommend that we respectfully decline the specific proposal Ontario has submitted, we are also recommending that we do explore other alternatives for a potential partnership with the Inland Empire. We, in our report, outline a number of alternatives that our consultants reviewed. One obviously would be no transfer at all, and basically provide an outline of various ways in which LAWA could continue to improve on the services at Ontario Airport. Number two is the proposal itself. Number three, an alternative management model or privatization. This would take advantage of the FAA's privatization pilot program. There are currently slots available that the city could participate in. It would, under this program, allow the city to generate revenue straight to the general fund. And finally, an option that could explore the acquisition of commercial airport by another municipal agency under FAA regulations through a joint powers authority in the Inland Empire. This alternative would provide for the new owner to obtain FAA airport operating certificate, compensate LAWA financially for the value of the airport, as well as the cost for the transition to the new owner. Three, defease all outstanding airport debt and assume existing financial obligations. Four, execute an employee protection agreement for a minimum of 5 years, for a minimum period rather. Five, agree to refrain from imposing operation restrictions, caps, curfews, bans on the aircraft and aircraft types. Six, dispose of any fund balances held by the airport. Seven, assume responsibility for outstanding grant assurances. And eight, assume responsibility for the airline use and lease agreement, which would obviously also require the consent of the airlines. It's important to note that over the years, LAWA has invested over $560 million in airport improvements paid from FAA grants, PFCs collected from passengers at LAX, issuance of airport revenue bonds, PFCs collected from passengers at the airport and other airport revenue. Many of the above considerations were acknowledged and agreed to by Ontario, making this option one that
That's option number
it would be the fourth option.
fourth option.
So now, of course, under this option, there has to be a consideration of value. As part of the acquisition of the airport, consideration must be given to the $70.6 million bond defeasance, $128 million repayment of the LAX PFCs, and the cost of any city employee protection and compensation program arising from the transaction. In addition, consideration should be given to the airport's land value and the potential for future growth. Indeed, LAWA's own consultant provided an evaluation that included a range with the upper end being closer to several $100 million. But ultimately, the final value will be determined through a series of negotiations between both parties, but should be not less than the fair and reasonable recovery of LAWA's investment. So as a path forward, my office recommends that the City of Los Angeles and LAWA explore a potential acquisition under Alternative 4 by the City of Ontario and or the Ontario International Airport Authority, subject to the required FAA approvals. My office also recommends that the city should bring together the City of Ontario, the County of San Bernardino, Ontario International Airport Authority, and other primary stakeholders to discuss common goals in an effort to increase economic activity across the region. All participants could potentially achieve their goals and objectives by creating a transaction with the City of Ontario and/or the authority and providing certain financial and operational benefits to LAWA to enhance needed capital infrastructure at LAX. So our recommendation to you is outlined in our report. As part of that, we also recommend that we respectfully request that LAWA adopt a series of principles to help guide these negotiations. We offer some concepts as to what they could possibly include. Among them is, to the greatest extent possible, avoid or mitigate any disruption of service at the airport, that the airport must continue to be operated as a commercial airport, that the airport shall be operated in the most efficient manner possible, that the city and LAWA should receive reasonable compensation in respect to its investment. All existing employees shall be treated fairly in accordance with existing labor contracts, and that the city's existing and future general fund base always be fully protected. So while we are recommending that we not accept the offer that Ontario has made, we do believe there's an opportunity here to develop a plan and an agreement with the Inland Empire for a more effective airport, as well as providing LAWA the much-needed revenue they need to make infrastructure improvements at LAX.
Well, could I ask at this time, Mr. CEO, before we have only one card, Alan, are you still a council member there?
I'm still there.
All right, all right, come on up, Alan, I appreciate that. Alan Wapner, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, good, and representing the City of Ontario, and asked if you got a copy of the report, Alan? You've had a copy of the report?
We received a copy of the report.
Super, okay. Your comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alan Wapner, member of the City Council, City of Ontario, also representing the Ontario Airport, International Airport Authority, as well as over 125 agencies, economic development agencies, and local organizations supporting local control of Ontario International Airport. And I got to say this, Mr. Chair, that I would love to have a committee where I was one and the same, and you don't have to argue with yourself as to whether or not you support something.
I can find a way, but anyway, that's
great.
another story.
Well, I was going to say something about Clint Eastwood and the empty chairs, but I won't go there either.
No, he already did enough damage, so I'm trying to prevent that. Okay.
In light of the CAO's report, my testimony is going to be short and simple. We do support what the CAO is recommending. We're looking forward to sitting down and discussing and negotiating the transfer of Ontario Airport in a way that's it's in best interest of both LA, the City of Ontario, as well as Southern California as a region. We appreciate the support of the staff here at the City of LA. We're looking forward to moving forward and doing what's in everyone's best interest. The only thing that was not included in the CAO's report is a time frame as to which this process should take place. And certainly, as we're all aware, as we speak and as we negotiate, the Ontario National Airport continues to dwindle in ridership. And it's really important that time be of the essence during these negotiations. So we would certainly urge that the city, when they support, and I'm assuming you're going to support your CAO's report, also put some type of a time frame on the negotiations so that we can move this forward in a time expedient manner.
What we'd like to do is just, with that in mind, Mr. CEO, have you report or your representative every 90 days, starting now, on updates on the discussions. And I think what was clear there is that the FAA said it's not to the City of Los Angeles, but it's to Los Angeles World Airports, which is the responsibility for the local control. I remember in the 90s there was a administration that wanted to take money from the airport to other sources, and it's very clear money from airports must stay at airports, and et cetera. So I think this is a launch pad. I see our Executive Director, Gina Marie Lindsay's here. Ms. Lindsay, would you like to add anything at this point?
I would indeed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gina Marie Lindsay, Executive Director, Los Angeles World Airports. We are very happy to abide by the recommendations of the CAO's report. We are anxious to get into productive discussions. Our plan would be to take a set of guiding principles to our board at the very next meeting, and then bring that forward as the CAO has recommended.
Very good. That's a very good step. So we got a flight plan, so to speak, if I can
We
use
do.
that term.
We hope
So-
it's ascending.
You got it, and completes its flight. Let me ask the administrator here, on these items, can we combine all these other items all together on Ontario?
Well, items number 2, 3, and 4 are regarding Ontario. Item number 5 is regarding the refrigerated cold storage facilities.
Okay, so
That was
2,
my-
3, and 4, we're going to do that, we'll take the next steps. Is that good? Okay, and then, I think this is good. It took a little while,
Yeah.
but the summer and everything, we're here, and I think that's a good option. So we'll schedule this, keep moving forward, but we'll get an update every 90 days to hold feet to the fire, so to speak, based on when the 90 days starts when your commission hears it.
Great.
Super.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great.
Thank you.
So we're going to note and file 2, and then go forward on that. Then the last item would be the cold storage, I believe. Item number 5.
Chris Concepcion with the Office of the CLA. Item number 5 is a motion, Perry Parks, relative to establishing refrigerated cold storage facilities at Ontario Airport to handle additional international shipments and receive the burden of cargo shipments via the Los Angeles International Airport.
Very good.
Councilman Mark Adams, Los Angeles World Airports.
If she's leaving. Yes,
Put in
Mark.
a report, this motion was filed late last year, actually. We put in a report in April that describes some of the challenges related to development of refrigerated cold storage
Right.
facilities. And I think, the report is fairly comprehensive in that, and I think the recommendations there are that, we continue to work with the cargo development community and try to find ways to develop.
Regardless of the items that we had before, so we got to fix that now.
Yeah, there are challenges related to the distance of the cargo and
Right.
and whatnot, which are all fairly well spelled out in the report.
Good. All right, so we're going to recommend approval on that item.
Yes.
Mr. Clerk, we'll recommend approval.
Yes.
Okay. Any other items?
No, except for public comment?
Any public comment? Okay, so thank you all very much. I think this is a good first step. I see Ms. Perry's deputy there. Would you want to ask any questions? Any complaints? Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.